Well, good afternoon and welcome to the NFF Connect series. My name is Ian Bennett. I'm the local assistant state team coordinator for the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation and appreciate everyone spending a little time with us today. Today it's the fourth Thursday of the month, and we'll be highlighting the Incident Commander and Incident Commander series. I'll get our guest on with us here. Our guest is Deputy Chief Darrell Stamper. I'll get him uploaded with the video here in just a minute. There we go. There we go. Chief Stamper, thank you very much for being with us today. Truly appreciate it.
Dan, thanks for having me.
A little bit about Chief Stamper. Deputy Chief Darrell Stamper is the second in command of the department in the Westland, Michigan Fire Department, being promoted in February of this year. He's held ranks of firefighter paramedic, driver engineer, captain, and battalion chief. On the day of the incident we're going to be talking about, he was a captain upgraded to the battalion chief position. And a note with Chief Stamper, he was instrumental in helping us get the Incident Commander program developed back in 2019. He joined us in Denver and helped us develop all the parameters for that. So Chief Stamper, welcome, and thank you for everything you've done for the foundation and these programs.
Thanks again, Ian. Thanks to you. Thanks to Triple F for allowing us to come out and talk about this kind of stuff. Get that out to the rest of the guys around the country so that others might not experience the same type of situation.
Excellent, thanks. So a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. May 8th, 2013, the Westland Fire Department was dispatched at 8:17 hours to a commercial fire alarm in a strip mall. On arrival, crews found light smoke conditions on a small end unit of a strip mall. The occupancy was a billiards hall with an attached restaurant separated by a steel roll-up door. Initial attack line was stretched deep in the structure under high heat and heavy smoke conditions and was unsuccessful in locating the seat of the fire. The host team decided to exit the structure. During the exit, one firefighter became separated from the other two crew members. The incident commander saw the two members of the host team exit on side alpha, called over the radio for the firefighter. Firefighter acknowledged the incident commander, gave his location in the rear of the structure. Firefighter later gave a radio transmission he was out of air. Rapid intervention team was activated, deployed, but unable to locate him before a flashover occurred and the roof collapsed. And unfortunately, firefighter Brian Woehlke was later recovered and pronounced dead on the scene. Chief, let's start the way we always do. Let's talk about firefighter Woehlke. Tell us what you want people to know about him.
Yeah, I would like to say I knew him a lot better than I did. That's like one of the things, now obviously mentioned a couple here that bother me even still to today, but one of it is that I didn't really have the chance to get to know him as much as I would have wanted. He was only in the department, just less than 10 months. The first couple of months are spent in our kind of training and development, 40 hours part, not put on shift. And then as the new guy, he's moved around a lot, so I didn't really get to spend a ton of time with him. However, I do know that he was an avid sports fan. We didn't see eye to eye on the fact that he was a University of Michigan fan, soccer fan, great guy as much as I knew him, husband to Jennifer, devoted husband, and proud new dad of a daughter, Ava, at the time. But however, I do have some stuff that some loved ones wanted to share, and that was the fact that he was a firefighter, a husband, a father, a son, a brother, an uncle, a nephew, a friend, and so loved.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, tell us about the day of the incident. What happened?
Yeah, so in our system, is obviously right at shift change. In our system, we oftentimes have to move guys from station to station to fill holes and vacancies. On that morning, Wednesday morning, I was upgraded to the position of battalion chief, who was off duty, and then so I had to bring someone over to the station to fill my role as captain, and so on and so forth. And you'll see when they talk about the proverbial kind of holes in the Swiss cheese, it really kind of starts right from there. So the call came out for light smoke in a commercial, well aware of this commercial strip mall. It's an L-shaped strip mall, kind of separated at that L joint by just like a covered overhang roof structure. I honestly, only one call came in. I really didn't expect it to be much. I hopped on the engine. This is the second part of the holes in the and the cheese and the fact that there's, some complacency or whatever, or not even complacency, but I just feel like maybe I didn't give it the thought that it should have had at that point. We roll out. I hopped on the engine because the captain who was coming to replace me had not shown up yet. So I left the command vehicle behind and hopped on the engine. The rescue, who was out on a run prior to shift change, cleared from their run, responded, and they showed up first, reported light smoke from the building. I was the next to arrive on engine 1. Again, I saw light smoke as well, no other change. However, I did see from the plate glass windows in the front that the smoke had banked down pretty heavily. I honestly, at that point, thought, since this was a pool hall with a small kitchen on what would be the Charlie side, and then connected to a smaller restaurant, I really honestly at that point expected somebody to have left something on the stove or something in that rear kitchen area to be the problem. So I had guys stretch 1.5 inches off engine 1 through Alpha. That Charlie would have been a better option. However, it's way more fortified on that Charlie side, and gaining entry was a lot more difficult. So we stretched through Alpha. It's really a straight shot from that door back to the Charlie side of the building. Those guys went in. My next arriving crew, I had stretch a second line off of that engine, go through the Bravo 1 exposure. Again, this was the end unit of the strip mall, so there wasn't a Delta 1 exposure, even though it was in the middle of that L-shaped strip mall. Those guys went into the Bravo side, and then my next arriving engine really had our senior most captain with a ton of experience. I put him on the Charlie side, the side of the building that I really couldn't see from Alpha, and I put him in charge of Charlie. Those guys got back, worked for a little while. I saw the conditions on the outside were already starting to deteriorate quite a bit, and I started asking for progress reports. And I'll talk about progress reports and kind of later on in this in the interview. But I wasn't really getting the information I was looking for out of those progress reports. So I walked around to the Charlie side. I had a face-to-face with that Charlie side officer. He pointed out that there was some smoke starting to push out in the corner at the roof line. I put a guy up on a ladder, not the aerial ladder that engine 3 is a Quint. We put that stick up, and the guy just remained on that aerial ladder, keeping an eye on roof conditions. Came back around, asked for another progress report, didn't really get the information I was hoping to get, and then the crew exited that Alpha side of the building, the crew that went in with Woehlke. Let me back up just a little bit on that. So the first crew I sent in was an upgraded sergeant to the captain position, one firefighter, and then firefighter Woehlke was with him as well. That was the first initial crew that went in, that main fire occupancy. I saw 2 guys exit that, and I realized that 1 guy was missing from that combo. So I walked up to them, had a face-to-face. They said he was right on the boot when they came out. I contacted them on the radio, and what it appeared to be, but now after we did the after-action reviews and critiques and listened to the radio traffic, it was another unit that was really speaking. We'll talk about some of the things that went wrong here. Was really speaking, and it sounded like it was Woehlke saying he was working in the rear of the structure. And then I asked what unit he was with, and again, ladder 1 at the time had some other traffic. There's a bunch of radio traffic, and it sounded like he said he was working with ladder 1. So I had at that point a scribe or a fit or whatever assistant who had brought the command vehicle. He was taking notes, and he heard really the same thing I did, that he was working with ladder 1. So we kind of left that like it was. Conditions continued to deteriorate, and we decided to go to defensive strategy. Called everyone out of the building. They gave PARs on arrival or on exiting, and once everybody was exited, the PARs with ladder 1 didn't match up with extra firefighter. I checked with the crews on that Charlie side, and they didn't have, he was unaccounted for at that point. So then there was Mayday traffic that went out. There was an attempt to try to contact him on the radio, which was unsuccessful, several of those. And then again, at that point, the front plate glass window had self-vented after a flashover. So I knew things were not good. And that next question, when you were going to ask kind of what I thought, at that point, I had probably the most sinking feeling I've ever felt. It's hard to explain, which is kind of why I wanted you to take that question out. It's hard to explain what I felt because it was just the most empty feeling I've ever felt. And some of that still lingers on today. I did have a crew in the Alpha side that was assigned RIT. I had a face-to-face with them, told them, hey, I know the conditions in here are going downhill rapidly. See if we can go in on their hose line, because their hose line was still stretched to the building. See if you can go in on their hose line, locate firefighter Woehlke, but don't, you can't spend an exorbitant amount of time in there. At that point, I realized probably what had happened. And then again, I had this crazy sunk, sad feeling, but honestly, I guess I realized I still needed to put the fire out. I still needed to get Woehlke out of there, even though I realized at that point he's probably not savable. So that we came out, we reconvened, went to defensive strategy. We put the fire out. It took probably an hour or longer after that to get the fire knocked down and under control. And then we spent some time waiting for heavier equipment to come in to move some of the stuff because the structure was kind of unsafe. We later found him on that Charlie side wall. Probably there was a door on that Charlie side wall, 10 or so feet in from the Charlie side, or on the Delta side wall. I'm sorry, about 10 or so feet in from the Charlie side walls. So he was probably about 10 feet between there, about halfway between the entry doorway and that Delta exit. And then the rest is what the rest is on the incident itself. Sorry, that's still kind of tough to get through even 8 years later. So
yep. Imagine.
Even tougher than I expected it to be.
Got some pictures. You want to? I'll share the screen here, and we can you can walk us through the pictures here.
Sure.
There we go.
Yeah, so if you look at the Alpha, kind of where the Alpha side line is, that's that building number 2 was the main fire occupancy. Number 3 was that Bravo 1 exposure. And then building 7 was an exposure connected by like kind of an overhanging roof there that connect the two malls, if it was to make one into an L. Our first arriving units, like I said, showed up on the Alpha side. This is it. This is the electric stick. That's fine. Electric stick entry. If you look at the door where your arrow is right there, that is the door we made entry on. We did break that glass. And again, when I talk about kind of what I want today's firefighters to know, we'll talk about kind of venting that glass. The NIOSH report, I'm sure the people sitting in this room probably read, and while they tried, I know they do their best to get that right. In there, it made mention of firefighters venting the other windows on the Alpha side, and that didn't happen. Those all self-vented once the conditions on the inside were worse. That's the electric stick, is the the picture angle is a little bit odd in here. I know this, but the door that you have your cursor over right now is actually the door to the restaurant that was next door. That's the Bravo side. It doesn't really line up that way in the picture, but this is the walkway through. They probably came out to the left side of that rail, made their way to the back, and that's the small kitchen area I was talking about, where I thought probably things went wrong. What we know now is that, it was arson that had kind of several sets that had worked its way into the attic space. And what we had ultimately was a, well-developed, severely vent-limited attic fire that we really kind of failed to recognize. When they were coming back, my only, and this is another part of this that it kind of still haunts me, is we really will never know what happened. My only thought process as to what could have happened is he came down one side of this kind of barrier half wall while the crew went down the other side. That's the only thing I can put together in my head that would have separated them. But again, that not knowing is really a struggle even still today. It keeps me awake at night still today. So that's that picture. This would be the Bravo 1 exposure restaurant. Again, that kitchen's kind of in the back too, so I really kind of expected everything to be in that Charlie kind of side of the building, and that ended up not being the case. This was, I believe, a NIOSH drawing. While they were correct in the engine 3's placement, engine 1's ladder was actually swung over towards the fire building and not on that retail store like it shows. These are other vehicles that were on the scene directly. There's probably another squad on the Charlie side there by engine 3. For the most part, we were able to keep most of the vehicles, other than what we needed, kind of out of the way. This was kind of probably, I was trying to figure out when this photo was taken. This is obviously I think before the plate glass windows vented, since I can still see some stickers on there, but this is when the conditions, this is when we decided to transition from offensive to defensive. Again, I just wasn't getting the reports. It looked nothing like this in the initial, when we first arrived on scene. You really couldn't see anything from the exterior, except for some small whiffs of smoke, except for that plate glass window was kind of banked down with smoke. This is probably 10 or 11 minutes into the incident, right before switching to that defensive strategy. This is after, so this is after the this is after those front windows let go and post flashover. This is actually after we had already sent that writ in, because I see the ladder now is moved over to that retail spot. That was to keep the spread from moving over to those buildings. So we had already given up on the electric stick, and Marvaso's right here next to it. This is the aftermath of the restaurant. And then not a very good view. Like I said, we pulled this, I believe this was going to be the Delta side after we pulled the wall down.
All right. So we're talking about lessons learned. It's been a little over 8 years since the incident. What do you want today's firefighters to know about this incident?
Yeah, so there's a ton, and we really have learned a lot in the fire service between 2013 and today, especially as far as the science of firefighting and fire dynamics. I guess first and foremost, I really broke this down. I took a lot of this internal, and we'll talk about this as the interview kind of goes on, I took a lot of this internal and really started breaking down this incident really the night of, and it still hasn't stopped even today, 8 years later. So there's a few things. One, learn from what UL and NIST put out. There's some valuable information there. Again, we didn't really recognize the fact that we were working in a severely vent limited attic fire, well-developed attic fire. Opening up that front door by breaking that glass started to feed that. In my opinion, I think that's probably pretty solid now, understanding that that's what happened. And then that fire was just developing up and above them without our guys really recognizing that what was going on. So that would be my first one, would be, really kind of take that science in and learn and pull from that what you can. The second one would be to, as far as command is concerned, think about really every scenario in 3 different levels, right? The strategic level, the tactical level, and kind of task level, and be prepared for on all 3 of those levels for a Mayday situation, right? Have that incident commander outside of the fire ground and not involved in the fire ground. Train your officers in Mayday and critical fire ground factors in communication. I just saw like a stat like the other day that said less than 5% of officers involved in Mayday incident have had any type of formal Mayday training. So get those guys trained up, get them away from the scene and not involved in the firefighting side of things. When you put your first arriving kind of company officer in like a working position until like a support kind of battalion chief or some other type of commander that can take something from outside, his view is really limited on what he can see. He can only see what's in front of him. So when we have incident commanders that are walking around, right next to the building trying to command an incident, they can't see what's going on above that fire. Stay back in a position where you can at least see 2 sides of the building and the roof structure. That's what I tried to do coming out of that. And then continue to work through that risk management, using the fire ground factors, continue to put that through risk management, plan and decide with what you're doing, if it's working, if it's not, change it, but make sure you keep that risk kind of benefit. It's tough as a firefighter. Most firefighters are kind of type A alpha personalities, and they don't want to give up on something, or they don't want to lose a building, or they don't want to, the list goes on. But if I would burn that building down 100 times over to have Woehlke back. So, and I'm not going by the NIOSH report, that risk management part was part of it. And that's what I've tried to do. I'm going to be honest in this interview, and I'm going to be as transparent as possible. And, I still feel like I take a lot of that blame. But that would be my number 2, is to pull that incident commander away from the scene. Don't let him get involved in firefighting operations, and put him in a position where he can, 1, hear the radio traffic. So I didn't mention this in the incident, but we picked up later in the after action review some radio traffic where firefighter Woehlke said he was out of air. No one caught that, not the dispatcher, not my FIT or scribe, not me, and not anyone else on the fire ground. So, 1 step above, pulling them back away from the scene would put them in an environment where they can hear and focus intently on that radio traffic. I think a lot of incident commanders want to, still feel like they're helping out the guys, but that's not really their job as an incident commander. It's really to keep the communication, keep your eyes on the building, and make sure that the conditions on the inside that you're getting out match conditions on the outside. That would be my biggest ones. And then again, come up with some type of command training and make sure your officers follow that, right? We decided to go a particular route, particular brand, the blue card idea of incident command. And I think it's really helped us on a bunch of different levels, and I'll talk about that when we hit that question. But come up with, if you don't like that program, come up with some type of command program and train your guys on it. I think we train a lot at the task level, and then we train a lot at the tactical level, but as far as bosses go, we don't really give them, as a fire service in general, I don't think we give them all the knowledge they need to be in those positions before they're in those positions. So it's important to develop those guys. I know I did not have experience in handling a Mayday. I never even really practiced handling a Mayday. I knew what our Mayday policy was, but I never really practiced that. You have to get out and practice the stuff, make sure it works. You can take something off the internet. I mean, there's hundreds, if not thousands of Mayday SOGs on the internet, but and guys sometimes adopt those, right? Because it's easy. And I agree, I've adopted a ton of SOGs, but you have to practice those as well and make sure they're going to work in your operation. And I think there's probably a ton more I want I want guys to know, but I don't know how long you're going to go with this interview. So I'll try to cut it off there, but I may ask to come back on something.
Absolutely. We got plenty of time, so that's not a problem at all. So incorporate them as we go. That's great. Along that line, so what did you do in the agency? What changes did you implement in the agency after this?
Yeah, so I think the biggest really, and if I got guys on here, I can't tell if I got guys in here looking from our department, and some might argue that we haven't done enough, but I think the biggest change that we've done that's made the most difference, in all honesty, is that kind of blue card command program. I was in that program on my own when the incident happened, kind of testing it out before I wanted to see if I wanted to kind of promote that to the fire chief. But coming out of that, I realized, halfway through there, that a lot of the things that went wrong in that incident really could have been made better. I'm not going to say it's going to change anything, but it would be made better if we would have followed some type of program like that, right? It has kind of a built-in kind of risk management assessment. I think one of the biggest parts of that program was the CAN report. And I talked about progress reports and not getting the information that you were looking for out of that term progress report, that acronym of CAN, which is conditions, actions, needs. I think would have gave me exactly the information I was looking for, and a progress report to one guy would be a different progress report in the mindset of a different guy. So, what conditions are you in right now? What are you doing right now? And what do you need to get done, whatever it is you're doing, I think makes way more sense. That was about $1 million idea. I don't know why it took so long to come up with that in the fire service, but it is really $1 million idea. So I think that's, pulling that battalion chief away from the scene, keeping them in the battalion chief vehicle with the windows rolled up, with a 15-watt radio as opposed to like a 5-watt radio, the ability to hear, not be exposed to the environment and the sounds of the fire ground, I think were our biggest things. And then since then, we've broken some other stuff down as far as SOGs to be, really kind of become a more SOG-driven department. I think those are the biggest changes.
Excellent. So, did the department have a confidence issue? So after this, did they suffer from that? And how did you change that culture and regain that? So,
yeah, so I think we still probably suffer. I won't lie. I think we still probably suffer from that incident. I know I personally had some confidence issues, and it really, if it wasn't for the guys coming together after that and the support from them, I don't think we probably would have ever recovered. Firefighters are a resilient bunch, and the group of us coming together, I think our fire department, we had a bunch of guys leave after that too, though, which kind of disrupted that a little bit. But the guys coming together afterwards, we're probably closer than we've ever been right after that, right? And it tends to fall away a little bit year after year, but I think following that, the guys coming together really helped with that. for me personally, trying to make sure we put the right things in place following that to make sure that didn't happen again, or at least reduce our risk of something like that happening again. I think that drive really helped as well to get through that. I think the guys coming together played the biggest part.
What did you experience personally in the aftermath of the incident?
Lots of grief. Like I said, lots of grief, lots of emptiness, and really just on the more positive side, just a drive to make change for the better. I feel like I'm still there. I'm in a good position to make some of those further changes that I've always kind of wanted to do. I think some of the issues we had, even like adopting like a blue card, even though it sounds like a great idea, and I present it, and I present kind of how I feel. As the incident commander, you're a little bit different than everybody else on that fire ground, right? Which we really learned as a collective group in that ICtoIC group. You're kind of in a different world than everybody else. The firefighters have a lot of support from, other firefighters, from the outside, from the public, from the community. And I'm not saying that the incident commander doesn't either, but it's a different role, right? The responsibility, it was on me. I was wearing the big boy pants that day, and all that. Everything from that is really, in my eyes, ultimately my fault. So that's tough to deal with as an incident commander. So I had like a lot of sleepless nights. There was a lot of I'm sure I put my wife and boys through some stuff, not even realizing it. But yeah, a lot of emptiness.
You talked about regaining your confidence as an incident commander, as far as everybody coming together. Was there anything particular you needed to do for that? So
yeah, so for me, there's really two things that got me through that incident, and we might be a little off on the questioning line now, but really two things got me through that incident. One was really the support of the guys, and as the incident commander, you're not quite sure what the guys are going to think about you after something like that, right? So that thought was in my head too, to go back to, even to your prior question a little bit. That thought was always in my head, like, are the guys going to be able to trust me after this? What could I have done different here? What could I have done different here? All those things continue to go through your head forever. But I had support from really all kinds of guys, and I don't want to call them out, but some guys made some really positive comments to me that really have helped me out long term. So without that, I'm not sure I would have been able to get through that. And then on the next piece is, really kind of my drive and my ambition to try to correct the things that went wrong. And I took a little bit different approach, and I think in Mayday situations or line of duty death situations that are traumatic, we always want to throw kind of like, new technology or new equipment or new kind of like task level training to fix it. But we don't really look at the why, and the why is tough to look at because you have to be very transparent, and you have to be ready for the answers of the why things went wrong, as opposed to the kind of what went wrong, the why they happened in the first place. And that's it. I feel like that's probably tough to do. I know that was tough for me. I decided to try to go down that path, but it opens you up. It opens you up for a lot of criticism, which is not exactly the easiest thing to do while trying to gain your confidence back and while trying to build kind of a stronger, more resilient department after that. So some of those things I can't answer. If I could, we'd probably be doing this interview on my yacht somewhere and not sitting in a room where it's been raining for 2 days in Michigan, 50 degrees. So.
All right. What
Sorry,
kind
I
of
went off
advice?
on a little bit of a
No, that
tangent.
was great. Good stuff. Like I say, this is just general script. It's not definitely, we can go anywhere we need to with this. So what kind of advice would you give to officers and firefighters that experience a loss of one of their own? So,
One, don't be afraid to. It's funny. The Michigan Association of Fire Chiefs kicked off their kind of Yellow Rose campaign on the mental health of firefighters at the beginning of the month, and I was one of these guys, right? You guys came out, CISD stuff came out, and I felt like none of that stuff was going to help me personally. But I realized after we met as the kind of the IC group that helped me quite a bit. But what you're really looking for, and I think this is what is really the best part of this program, is that I had a ton of friends. I have a ton of friends in the fire service, and they all reached out and they all wanted to know how they could help. But I really honestly didn't feel like they could help because they didn't really know what I was feeling. And unless you experience something like this, you're really not going to know what that guy is feeling. So don't be afraid to reach out. It does help, especially with kind of this network that you guys have been able to put together. My first thing would be, reach out to those guys, reach out to you, let you put them in touch with somebody that really does kind of understand what they are going through, at least more so than anybody else can. That would be my first thing. Number two is come together really as a group. I think that really, like I said, I think that got me through, and I think we can get a lot of the guys through situations like that if we come together as a group. And then, kind of tied back to that first part, don't be afraid to reach out and seek help if you need it. Kind of the behavioral side or the mental health of the firefighters was kind of put on the back burner, I think, because of the type of attitudes that we have. But now it's kind of coming to light. So I think all that stuff's going to help going forward as well. But take care of your mental health too, because that's important for not only you, but your family and the ones around you that care about you. You've obviously lost somebody in the fire service who have loved ones that have had a huge loss, and don't extend that to your family as well. That would be my advice.
excellent. And I'm just going to put the shameless plug in for the entire Uniform Support Group program. Chief Stamper keeps referring to the ICtoIC, and I think most everybody's familiar with it. But what happened is back in 2019, Chief was part of a cohort we brought together to Denver and talk about developing an incident commander network. And that's exactly what he said. It's for an incident commander suffers a line of duty death, then they can reach out and we'll match them with an incident commander such as Darrell that has already been through this process and help them through the process. Because like you said, only somebody that's actually been through it knows what they're going through and what to expect. Been a very successful program. It's modeled after the Chief to Chief network, which we just redeveloped back in July in San Antonio. And we also have a company officer to company officer network that was just developed in San Antonio as well in July. So Chief to Chief, incident commander, and company officer to company officer. Get a hold of me directly. You can go on firehero.org, and there's some forms in there. You can just fill out a short form. It'll come to me, and we match you with people from that. So an incredible program these individuals put together, and encourage people to use it, because it definitely, we've used it quite a bit, unfortunately, in the last few months. And it seems to be very helpful. So thanks for your help with that and for promoting that with us, Chief. So before we go on to the tribute video, is there anything you'd like to add as we go through?
Yeah, I would like to thank you guys again for giving us this opportunity to come out here and, all the guys from the group kind of share their stories. If I can, although I'll give you the plug for the IC. If I could prevent another line of duty death from happening in the future, I would much rather do that than be a support for somebody. So again, take the lessons learned from the NIOSH reports and from videos like this. Really kind of think about the why things happen, and and make those corrections. Try to set ego and personality aside, and you know, really kind of break down your departments, everyone on here, and see what you need to maybe fix before something like this happens. Because the best, you know, really the best advice I could give would be to prevent something like this from happening in the first place. That would make life better for everybody. And we're already, I see like 100 people in this year. And I realize COVID probably has played a big part in that 100, but you know, even though you know, and I know this as well, when we had this incident, you know, even though we talk about stuff like this, we continue to kind of make the same mistakes. So if I can touch like one person in this whole group that's on here, which I appreciate everybody joining in. If I could touch one person or get one person to think a little bit different to prevent something in the future, that's well worth anything that I sacrificed.
Excellent, thanks. Well, we'll get a little tribute news story. I'll share the screen here.
An emotional day today for Wayne Westland firefighters. It's been 1 year since they lost one of their brothers in the line of duty.
I remember that well. It was May 8th of 2013, 8:17 in the morning. Brian Woehlke was called on the fire run. That would be his last.
This morning, firefighters and the Woehlke family held a ceremony in his honor. A plaque was dedicated to pay tribute to Brian Woehlke and the sacrifice he made.
And as 7 Action News reporter Kimberly Craig tells us tonight, Michigan State Police are still looking for the person who set that restaurant on fire.
Condition unit ready to come to the roof. You need to get everybody out of there.
Anyone to command, we need a power count. Firefighter Woehlke's unaccounted for.
Oh, it's just the sinking feeling in your heart. You just everything just focuses in on that, and your chest drops. I mean, we talk about what to do in that situation and how to keep calm, but I mean, there's no keeping calm in that situation. No matter how trained you are, your partner's gone. He's missing.
Firefighter Woehlke from BT1.
They're the moments they realize firefighter Brian Woehlke couldn't be found. He was nowhere outside of the burning restaurant, which could only mean he was still on the inside where the fire had been raging.
Base 14 to Firefighter Woehlke. Base 14 to BC1. Is he accounted for?
Negative at this time.
Base 14 to Firefighter Woehlke.
The fire on May 8, 2013 burned down Marvaso's Grill and the Electric Stick in Westland. Question now is who started it and why? Who was responsible for firefighters going in and Woehlke never coming out?
I think about Brian every day, and it's hard.
Everyone who knew and loved Brian Woehlke had hoped and prayed that there would have been an arrest in the arson by now, but investigators still need more pieces to the puzzle. And at Woehlke's old firehouse, not a day goes by that they don't think about him and pray the tip that they desperately need will come in soon. And so they are pleading with anyone out there who knows something to call in that tip.
Somebody might not know everything, but somebody does know a piece, and those pieces could add up, and they could find who may have caused this fire. We were in a situation that we didn't need to be in. It was an arson fire. If somebody didn't set that fire, then we wouldn't have been there, and I wouldn't be here talking to you about the partner that we lost.
Brian Woehlke had 3 loves, his wife Jennifer, daughter Ava, and being a firefighter. And it was a little before Christmas when we talked to Jennifer Woehlke about losing the love of her life, the father of her little girl.
He lived for that girl. She was everything to him. And the fact that she doesn't have him at all, like, she is missing out. Her whole future is gone. She doesn't have him anymore. To not hold his hand, to not have him be there for her whole life, I can't. It's not fair.
Closure would help the family heal, as well as the department. This didn't need to happen. It's a reverse role. This time we're asking for help.
I remember that day so well, that as those firefighters told Kim, they're asking people to come forward with any information, no matter how small the detail that they may recall about that day and what might have happened.
And there are 2 rewards funds totaling more than $12,000
if you know anything. One of the tip lines.
All right, powerful story there. So, Chief, I'd really like to thank you for your time and your willingness to share this very important stuff for our viewers.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, next fourth Thursday in October, October 28th, we're going to be talking to Deputy Chief of Field Operations Sam Lanivi with the Florida Fire Service from in the wildland. The Blue Ribbon Fire resulted in line of duty deaths of 2 firefighters, actual forest rangers, Josh Burst and Brett Fulton in North Florida in 2011. So please join us October 28th, and we'll do another one here. Chief, got a few comments coming here. Thank you very much for your time and your willingness to share and your courage to share all this with us. Truly appreciate it. So,
Yeah, anytime.
excellent. Well, I hope everyone has a great day, and thanks for taking the time to share with us. Take care. See ya.
Thank you.